coming. Most of you probably know what Men and Machines is all about. We're just a bunch of guys from the local churches, no denomination in particular, all over the place. And we just want to get together and do things like this just to share what we've found to be true, and that's the love of Jesus in our lives and the difference that makes. And we want to share that with people. We don't want to shove it down your throats, so please don't feel any pressure this morning. We're just sharing with you what we've found to be good. So I'll ask Sam to come up if that's okay. All right, thanks for coming, Sam.
No worries.
So this is a very different world we're living in these days with COVID and all that sort of thing. So I've just got a few questions for you before we start. First of all, have you been to any of these places in the last... Have you been to any of these places in the last seven days, Sam? I've got a list here, Sam. I'm serious, Sam.
Okay.
Have you been to any of these places here?
And what if I have?
Well, then we'll see. So have you been to any of these places?
All right. Oh, I see. The toilet. Yeah, I guess I have.
Okay, we're just concerned for your well-being. That's good. Okay. And have you got any
Well, you know, I'm older than look. So I turned 50 a few years ago. So these days I go to the toilet not because I have to, but in case I have to. So you feel like you've turned like 5 again. Do you remember when you were 5, your mum would make you go to the toilet? You know, I don't need to go. No, go now. And that's how you feel now. You see a toilet sign and think, well, I don't have to go, but I should go just in case, because I don't know the next time I'm going to see one.
Now, just for security reasons, can you just give us your full name and date of birth?
Sure. Sam Chan, 9th of November, 1966.
66, okay. So we have the right Sam, so that's a good start. Yeah. Okay, so it's a bit of a more serious question for you. All jokes aside, do you ride a motorbike? If so, what is it? And if not, why not?
I do ride a motorbike. I can't explain it. Like, you turn 50 and you just do wee things. You turn 50, you get a colonoscopy, you have to send a sample of your poo in the mail, and you think, okay, I'm just going to get a motorbike.
Very good.
But I love the colonoscopy. Like, half this room gets it, hey? Because when they give you that prep, like, oh, you're as clean as the day you were born. You think, I could drink what's coming out. It is so clean.
We won't ask you if you do that. So, look, so what do you ride? Getting back to serious matters, what do you ride?
I ride, it's a Triumph Street Triple 765, but the lowered version, because I'm a very short person.
Okay, a bit vertically challenged?
Yep.
Okay, so look, I've heard on the grapevine that you're a medical doctor.
Yeah.
That's correct. Are you currently practicing?
I am. So I work as a surgical assistant. You think, what is a surgical assistant? I'm the guy that holds the leg while the surgeon operates on your leg. And like a trained monkey could do what I do. So just like a mechanic needs someone to hold up the bonnet, the surgeon needs someone to hold the leg. So the nurses look at the surgeon and think, yeah, I can see how that took 5 years of med school. They look at the anaesthetist keeping you alive and they think, yeah, I can see how that took 5 years of med school. Then they look at me and think, how does that take 5 years of med school? But, you know, I've got the most important job, because if you've ever had an operation, we are so worried we're going to get the wrong leg, aren't we? Like, we're always going, which leg? And you have to say this leg. And then they put you asleep when it comes down to which leg I pick up first. And it's a 50-50, right? So we get it right half the time. And if we do the wrong side, it's okay, we throw in the other side for free.
Very good.
We've only done it a few times. Like, we are beating par. Like, it's a 50-50. We're above par.
So, have you ever used Google to diagnose a patient?
Oh, all the time.
All the
right?
time,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Because they always deny that, but anyway. So, look, I believe you also have a PhD in theology. Now, I just want to do a quick survey here. Does anybody know anybody who has a PhD in theology? One. Okay,
wow.
Okay, we have a couple. That's amazing. So for those of us, because what the heck is a PhD in theology? What is theology in the first place?
Well, my boys say, oh, I've got a PhD. And I say, what does that mean? They go, yeah, I passed high school with difficulty. Yeah. Well, it just means you take a long time saying things that other people just take a sentence to say.
Okay, so is that supposed to fill us with confidence to listen to you this morning?
Yeah, that's right. I'm going to take a long time to say what you could have said in one sentence.
Okay, very good. Okay, so you have a blog called Espresso Theology.
Yeah, I just try to see, you know, like just Jesus is everywhere, and just how does Jesus relate to the things of normal everyday life? So I try to take us from this world to Jesus in 60 seconds.
Okay. And is that my last question for you before I let you loose on these guys? You're the national communicator for the City Bible Forum. What is that all about?
Well, I do public talks for City Bible Forum. So there used to be a time where before COVID, people worked in the city. So it was basically a ministry to help people just hear about Jesus in the city, in the workplace.
Okay, very good. Okay, over to you, mate.
Oh, thanks. Thank you. Thanks, Chuck. Thanks so much for having me. So as you heard, I ride a motorbike and I work as a doctor. So just about 2 years ago, when we work in medicine, every now and then we have an esky full of dry ice because we had to put something in it, like a body part or bone graft. And so we have an esky full of dry ice, and it happens rarely, maybe once or twice a year. We get an esky full of dry ice. And I thought, oh, how cool would it be to get the dry ice home, because I have 3 young boys and they could play with the dry ice. So I rang up my wife. I said, hey, I've got a surprise for the boys. Make sure the place is tidy because we can just flood the place out with the dry ice, right? And she said, okay. But then I had this problem. How do I get the dry ice home? And I thought, you know what? I'll just shove it in some plastic garbage bags that we have at hospital, and they're industrial strength, like we put body parts in them, that sort of thing. And I thought, okay, so I thought I'll just put a little bit in, I won't get greedy, but then I did. I put the whole esky in, and I thought if I triple bag it, it'll be all right. Like, it won't burst. These bags are really, really strong. And then I shoved it into my backpack, and I jumped on my motorbike, and it's a 40-minute ride from Norwest to Croydon Park. And as I'm going on James Roos Drive, I can feel the backpack expanding. And I think, okay, I'm committed because I can't pull over, because if I pull this out, there'll be smoke everywhere. And then people think this is a bomb, this is a terrorist, and some police sniper is going to take me out. So now I'm committed. I've got to double down, and so I've just got to go faster, right? So then I hit the M4, and I think I've only got 15 minutes, and I'm there. And I can just feel the straps on my backpack get tighter and tighter and tighter, and now I can't feel my arms at all. And I'm going to feel the stitches now just straining my backpack. And I'm thinking, okay, I've only got 10 minutes to go. I'm committed. I can't pull over. Otherwise, there's just too much explaining to do, too much paperwork. And I'm going, now you're hitting 100, 110. And suddenly, boom! There was the biggest bang, and the back of my backpack just blew off completely, just leaving my straps on. And it felt like someone had come up from behind with a baseball bat and bang, hit me. I turn around because there's no one there. It's just my backpack blowing off. And everyone says, you could have been killed. And I say, yeah, and it would have been the perfect murder, because they would not have discovered the murder weapon. The dry ice would have all just evaporated. Now, at this stage, you're wondering, what on earth are you doing with dry ice on a motorbike? But I think the bigger question is, what on earth are you doing on a motorbike? Because I used to work as a doctor, and I have seen everything. I've seen everything that happens to guys on motorbikes, and I swore I would never, ever buy a motorbike. But here I am now on a motorbike. What happened? I used to have every reason not to believe in motorbikes. I was the world's biggest skeptic when it came to motorbikes. But here I am now a believer. What on earth happened? And maybe it's the same with us and Jesus. We have every reason not to believe in Jesus. We might be the world's biggest skeptic when it comes to Jesus, but I'm here to say why we should at least consider Jesus. So welcome to today's talk. The topic I was given was Jesus for the skeptical. And so I'm going to try to answer this in like a 30-minute talk, followed by some question and answer from you guys. So as I talk, think of whatever question you want to ask me, and I'll do my best to answer it. So today's topic is this: why should I consider Jesus? And maybe we have every reason not to believe in Jesus. Maybe we had religious parents who were hypocrites, and that turned us off Jesus. Maybe we've been hurt by the church, And that has turned us off Jesus. Maybe we went to a religious school and they tried to ram religion down our throats, and that turned us off Jesus. But maybe it's time to reconsider Jesus, because right now the fastest growing religion in the world is Christianity. Millions, billions of people all over the world in Africa, Asia, Latin America, the Middle East are discovering Jesus, and they're loving, worshipping and following Jesus. So what are they seeing in Jesus that maybe we in the West are missing? So maybe it's time that we reconsider Jesus. Forget about the Jesus we think we know. Forget about the Jesus we grew up with. And let's just rediscover Jesus on his own terms. So I'm going to give us 3 reasons why I believe in Jesus. The first reason is this: because something came from nothing. Something came from nothing. Now, just the other day, I was reading the Bible and I thought, okay, I have a PhD in theology. I know the Bible. But the Bible's amazing. You always rediscover things in the Bible you've never seen before. So I came across a story of Jesus feeding the 5,000. I thought, okay, here we go. I've heard this story so many times. Jesus feeds the 5,000 with 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. And I also, okay, anyone can do that, because 5 loaves, I'm picturing 5 tip-top loaves, right? And 2 fish, maybe they're brim, maybe they're whiting. And then I reread it, and in the original Greek, it actually says they're 5 bunnettes. They're like little biscuits, right? And the fish, the tiny fish, they're like fishettes. So they're like 2 sardines. So Jesus feeds 5,000 people with 2 sandwich sardines. And I'm like, okay. This is where you got me. Like, okay, maybe I can believe in the virgin birth, because, even in medicine we can do amazing things. Maybe I can believe in Jesus walking on water, because we don't know how deep the water was, right? But Jesus feeding 5,000 people with 2 sardines, okay, this I cannot believe. Like, that is just impossible. You are asking me, a doctor, a person of the sciences, evidence-based medicine, to believe a man can feed 5,000 people 2 sardines. But then I thought, you know what? Whether I believe in Jesus or not, whether I believe in a personal God behind the universe or not, I'm still being asked to believe the same things: that something came from nothing, that this universe came from nothing, that life came from non-life, and rational human consciousness, me, has come from random chaos matter. So somehow we all believe the same things: that something can come from nothing, life can come from non-life, and rational human consciousness can come from just atoms and molecules and electrical impulses in your brain. So it's actually way more likely that there is a personal God behind the universe than nobody behind the universe. Because we're all being asked to believe the same thing: that something comes from nothing, life comes from non-life, and somehow intelligent human consciousness, a mind, can come from atoms and molecules, a brain. Somehow there is a person. There has to be a personal God behind this universe. And that's what Jesus is saying. When he feeds 5,000 people with 2 little fish, he's saying, I am that personal God behind the universe. Just like I made something come from nothing, life come from non-life, and intelligent thought come from random chaos, I can feed 5,000 people with 2 fish. And I thought, you know what? I can happily believe that way more than any other story. And whether we like it or not, we live as if the universe is personal. We live as if there is a personal force behind the universe. Now, I've got 3 young boys. Boys, everyone goes, oh, you got boys. Boys are hard to raise. I go, no, they're just like puppy dogs. You just got to feed them and give them a ball to play with. And so, but they are chaos. It is chaos. It is just absolute chaos. And so my wife and I are always going to parenting seminars because we just need help. Like, how do you control 3 high energy boys. And we went to this parenting seminar run by Stephen Bidoff, Maggie Dent. It was really, really good. And Maggie Dent, she had 5,000 parents in front of her. And then she said this thing. She said, the universe doesn't give you the child you wanted. The universe gives you the child you need. And in that moment, every parent went, whoa, yeah. That's right. And then I thought, what? The universe gives you the child you need? What is this universe? It's just atoms and molecules. There is no personal universe that gives you the child you need. But if there's a personal God, that makes sense. And suddenly, we live as if there is a personal God behind this universe. And this year, just this year, I know I have a PhD in theology, but I thought, you know what? I'm going to pray more. I work as a doctor, and every time people come to me, with their personal things, I'm going to say, you know what? My wife and I, we pray every night for our friends. Is it all right if we pray for you? So I had this nurse come to me. She said, I've got visa issues. My visa expires this week, and because of COVID, it's really hard to renew. I actually don't know where I'm going to be next week. And I said, my wife and I, we pray every week. Would it be all right if we prayed? Next week, she goes, you won't believe it, the visa got extended. Another time, my neighbour says to me, could you, I'm not a Christian, but I know you guys pray. I'm going for a job interview next week. Could you please pray? And I said, yes, we would love to. Following week, she goes, you won't believe it. I got the job I was looking for. Another time a nurse was saying to me, my daughter's having these issues, the anxiety, stress. I said, you know what? My wife and I, we pray every night. Is it all right if we pray for you? Next week she says, my daughter, I don't know what it was, but she had a really good week. And I'm not saying God answers each and every prayer, but what I am saying is this. Somehow, deep down in our heart of hearts, we realize there is more to this universe than just atoms and molecules. There is a personal God who loves us, who cares for us, and he is behind what happens in this universe. So that's the first reason why I consider Jesus. The second reason I consider Jesus is this. Jesus answers the who am I question. Like, who am I? Who am I really? Like, why am I special? Like, have you ever thought about that? Like, if there are 8 billion of us in this universe, 8 billion of us on this planet, why am I special? And we keep saying, but you're special, I'm special. But if we're all special, we stop being special, right? And we're just atoms and molecules. We're just another species of life on this planet. We're just a blip in the timeline of the universe. Who am I? Like, if nobody wants me, like, why am I special? Where do I find my value, my worth, my dignity from? And it's worse if you're Asian, because there are just a lot of us. We all look the same, right? And so it's hard to feel special. And when I went to high school, my last name is Chan. Just in my one class alone, there are 4 of us called Chan. And so the teacher would just mark the roll going, Chan, 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 Chan. And you know which Chan you were and just say, here at the right moment. It's so humiliating, so depersonalizing. So at this moment you think, well, who am I? What makes you and me special? Now, if there was a fire in your house and you could only take one thing out, what would it be? Would it be, I don't know, your passport, your wedding photos? What would it be? For me, it's this trophy. It's this trophy. It's a silver beer mug. And on the trophy is inscribed Sydney University Football Club, so the rugby team at Sydney University, 5th grade, so the 5th team. The best forward, Sam Chan, 1995. That is my most prized possession. I would take that before my wedding photos, because this trophy, because wedding photos, right, anyone can take them, right? But this trophy validates me. It says that a short little Asian played the Anglo-Aussies at their own game and won. I was validated. Best forward, Sydney University Rugby Club. And we all look for trophies, don't we? It could be our jobs, our family, our possessions. We all look for trophies to validate us. Hugh Mackay, Australian social commentator, says the number one desire that drives all of us in this room is to be recognised, to be somebody, to be noticed, to be respected. This one desire drives all of us, whether we're trying to climb the ranks in our job, whether we're the schoolyard bully, whether we're the sportsman, whether we're the generous philanthropist. It's this desire that drives us to be noticed, to be validated, to be respected, to be recognized, to be somebody. But there's a problem with this, and it's this. You will now look at my trophy and you'll say, Sam, can you see what it says? It's a rugby trophy. I'm sorry, no one plays rugby anymore. Like rugby league maybe, AFL maybe, soccer maybe, but who cares about rugby anymore? Then it says best forward. Forward, aren't they the fat, slow old guys? Like, aren't the backs the glamour ones who do all the scoring? And fifth grade, how many teams were there? First, seconds, thirds, fourths, fifth, you're in the lowest team. 1995, that's more than a quarter of a century ago. I think you should just move on. Get over it. And suddenly realize, no matter how big we think our trophies are, sooner or later there's a pond big enough where we become the small fish again. And that's the whole problem with the bell curve. We might find ourselves in the front of the bell curve, but sooner or later there'll be a bell curve big enough where we're in the back of that bell curve. I lived the Asian dream. I studied hard in high school. I got the marks I needed. I got into medicine, right? That's what every Asian wants, to get into medicine. So I lived the Asian dream. But suddenly you realise, whoa, it keeps on going. The mountain keeps going. I was once on a bus and I saw this advertising for GPs, general practitioners, family doctors, and it had a picture of a smiling doctor and the slogan said, not just a GP. And I thought, do you know why it says not just a GP? Because, buddy, that's all you are. You are just a GP. You're the guy that couldn't specialise. You're the guy that did become a surgeon. And suddenly the mountain keeps going. It's not just enough to be a doctor. You have to be a GP. Not just enough to be a GP. You have to be a specialist. Not just enough to be a specialist. You have to be a surgeon. Not enough to be a surgeon. You have to be a knee surgeon. Not enough to be a knee surgeon. You have to be a knee surgeon in a major hospital, not a small hospital. Not just enough to be a knee surgeon in a major hospital. You have to research. You have to publish, you have to travel, you have to present. Whoa, it keeps on going. The pond gets bigger and bigger and you're a small fish again. I'm the guy that couldn't even become a GP. I'm the leg holder. I'm the one right at the bottom, right? Sometimes no matter who you think you are, you will become invalidated. And we look for validation in what we've achieved, what we own, what people say about us. Sooner or later, it'll be nothing. You'll be a nobody. And even when we climb the mountain, there's no one there to say, well done. I said to a surgeon once, I said, they tell me it's lonely at the top. He said, it is so lonely. There's no one to say, well done, when you do climb the mountain. But there's a story in the Bible where Jesus, people try to bring children, little children to him, and the crowds and the disciples try to send the children away. And Jesus says, no, let them come, because to such as these belongs the kingdom. Jesus says, if you become a child of God, you will have all the status, importance, validation that you are looking for. No matter how little we are in the eyes of the world, no matter how marginalised, no matter how much of a nobody we are somebody to Jesus. Because Jesus says, well done. You are my child. You are loved no matter what. So that's why I consider Jesus. So that in Jesus, I'm somebody. I have the validation I'm looking for. So I don't look in all the wrong places, destroy my family, destroy myself, trying to be somebody when I'm already somebody in the eyes of Jesus. The third reason why I consider Jesus is this. He answers the why am I here question. Where am I going with my life question? Jesus answers the why am I here. Now, the other day I was riding on my motorbike on the M4 heading out west, and I was chewing some gum and the gum fell out. So now it's in my helmet. somewhere. And I'm going 110 k's an hour. I'm trying to think, where's his gum? I'm trying to shake. And it's just rattling in there somewhere and I can't get it out. And at this point you're thinking, what's the point of this story? And that's it. There is no point to the story. And that just drives you nuts because somehow we think there has to be a point. It can't be just something that happened. Well, yeah, it's just an event that happened. At some stage, we got asked, and well, what's the point of my life? Where's my life going? And people who say, you know what, there is no God, there is no point. Your life is just a series of events. They just happen. Get over it. There is no point. There's this famous philosopher called Yuval Noah Harari. He's a secular atheist philosopher. He's written all these bestsellers right now, Homo Sapiens, Homo Deus, 21 Lessons for the 21st Century. I love him because he's a committed atheist and he calls it as it is. He says, you know what? There is no purpose. There is no freedom. There is no moral accountability. There is no free will. Just get over it. These are useful fictional stories we tell ourselves. Useful, but they are just fictional. They don't exist. We just make up these stories so that we all get along with each other. We tell ourselves we're important, there's a point, but there is no point to life. Just get over it. And I agree with him. If there is no God, there is no point. But there has to be a point. Because there's that moment in every relationship where the guy and the girl will ask each other after maybe 2 years of dating, so where are we going with this? Like the relationship actually has to be moving somewhere. It can't be we just meet each other, we hold hands, we kiss, we do coffee. No, where is this relationship going? It has to be going somewhere. And at some stage we ask ourselves the same question in life. Where is my life going? It has to be more than just a series of events that just keep on happening. I love cricket. And my sons play cricket. At first I thought, oh no, it's like every parent's worst nightmare. Like I'd rather do drugs and gambling, but not cricket. Like, oh my gosh, all my weekends are gone. But it's been all right, the beauty about cricket is nothing happens, right? So then you don't have to be, your kids are never going to say, did you see that, Dad? They don't, nothing happens, right? But my wife does not get cricket. She does not get cricket. Every time we walk past the TV and the cricket sign, she goes, what, cricket? I go, yeah, cricket. And she goes, it's still on. I go, yeah, it goes on all day. The next day, what, cricket again? I go, yeah, it's a 5-day test. Next week, what, cricket? Yeah, it's a 5-match series. Like, what is there not to get, right? But you can see a point, like people who don't get cricket, like, what? So explain cricket. Well, someone bowls a ball at you and you hit it. And they bowl it at you again and you hit it. And then they bowl it at you again and you hit it. You think, well, what's the point? And suddenly you realize, you know what? There is no point. And that's why they have to pretend there is a point. They say, oh, it's about tradition. It's about rivalry. There's this Border Gavaskar trophy. And then they have to make up reasons for why it matters. In other words, you have to connect it to a story bigger than the story, right? But then there's this thing of where you trump stories. Like just last year, what's the captain's name? Of India. He had to go back for the birth of his son, right? Kohli, that's right, I've blocked it out from my head. It's the trauma, right? Anyway, so suddenly you realize, whoa, suddenly something is more important than cricket. Like had he stayed and kept playing for the trophy, the tradition, the rivalry, where everyone was going, what a jerk. Like he has to be home for the birth of his child. Suddenly you realize there are stories bigger than our own stories. Life is more than just our own stories. There's this writer called Viktor Frankl, Jewish Holocaust survivor. He's written a book called Man's Search for Meaning. He explains it this way. He says, I want you to imagine there are two women. One woman, through the fortunes of life, she's beautiful, she's rich, she's important, she's popular, she goes to parties. Another woman, through the misfortunes of life, she gives birth to a child with profound disabilities. This woman, at the end of her life, you go, What was all that about? I had a lot of money, I flirted with a lot of men, and I went to a lot of parties. This woman, at the end of her life, will go, wow, what a life. I raised a child with profound disabilities. And suddenly you realize if we only live for ourselves, we end up empty, self-absorbed, and unfulfilled. But if we can live for someone else, it's actually a very fulfilling life. I've just been reading this book by a guy called David Brooks. He's a New York Times columnist, and he has written a book called The Second Mountain. And he says, this is how life works. Especially as a man, we climb the first mountain where it's all about ambition, success, winning trophies. And we get to the top of the first mountain and think, oh, that was a little bit underwhelming. I feel very empty, unfulfilled, self-absorbed. Then you realize, hey, there's a second mountain. Here we were satisfying the needs of the ego. On this second mountain, we satisfy the needs of the soul, where we realize, you know what, it's finding a story bigger than our own story and serving it and giving rather than taking. And that's where Jesus comes and gives us the ultimate somebody to serve, the ultimate story to live for. That's why Jesus says, hey, come follow me. Deny yourself, meaning just get off that first mountain, take up your cross, follow me, and I will give you the direction that you're looking for. I will be the somebody to serve, the ultimate bigger story to live for. Because this is the story of Jesus. There is a God who loves us, who made us, and who saves us. And he sent us his son, Jesus, the Son of God, who lives for us. He dies for us on a cross to take away all our sin, shame, guilt. He becomes the cancelled one in our place, the cut off one in our place, the shame one in our place. He rises from the dead and he lives for us. And now we have a chance to live for him as he lives for us and be part of Team Jesus, a tribe, a belonging, a community where every day we get to bring the love, mercy, and justice of Jesus onto this planet. That's why we're here. So when I take my kids to school, we pray on our way to school, and we usually end our prayers by saying, dear God, today, let me be Jesus to those around me. We have a purpose, we have a direction, we have a story bigger than our own story to live for. So that's why I consider Jesus. So I'm just going to end with this, right? So this has actually been a hard, funny, weird week for me. So some of you know my mother died unexpectedly, suddenly on Monday. Like she and my father, they live independently, they're still well, they're in their 80s, but they're very fit, very healthy. And suddenly on Monday, boom, she blew an aneurysm. So dead in seconds, painless, seconds, gone, right? And so the funeral will be on Monday. So where we haven't even had the funeral yet. And I know, basically I've got two choices at the funeral. When I see the body of my mother, I would just see a dead body, atoms and molecules. That's all I see. As a doctor, I will see a body, a lifeless body. And I just basically will have two choices. One choice is this, you know what? That's what she is. She's just a species of life on this planet. Just atoms and molecules. Whatever she once had, a heartbeat, a breath in her lungs, just gone, all right? So, but that's what it is. And she's just a blip in the timeline of this universe. That's choice number one. Choice number two is this. She's more than atoms and molecules. But what is it exactly? She had a soul. She had a spirit. So she's more than the sum of her parts. But if she had a soul, if she had a spirit, where does that come from? It has to come from a living, powerful, personal God. And if she was a loving person, where does that come from? It has to come from a loving, personal God. These things don't come from nothing. And if she's more than just a species of life on this planet, What is it exactly? Jesus will say she is, but what that is this. She is a child in the image of God. She is a child of God. And that's why I choose to believe in Jesus, because we have the same choice when it comes to ourselves. Who am I? Why am I here? Am I just atoms and molecules? Because that's all the scientists will say I am. Am I just another species of life on this planet? Because that's what the biologists will say I am. And then, am I a loving person, or are these just random chemicals in my brain that make me a loving personal being? But really, it's a fictional story. It's an illusion we tell ourselves. Or is there a loving, powerful, personal God behind this universe that makes me special? Who says, I'm a child of God. I am so special that Jesus, the Son of God, became me. He took on my atoms or molecules. He became my species of life on this planet. And he loves me so much, he didn't want to leave me the way I am. He says, you are okay the way you are. I love you just the way you are, but I love you too much to leave you the way you are. I'm going to die for you, take away all your sin, guilt and shame. I'm going to put a new spirit in you. And every day is a day where I make you more and more to the person I want you to be, that you want to be, a child of God. Not just on the outside, but on the inside as well. Well, thank you very much for listening. I'm going to hand you back to Chuck, who's going to take over from me, and we'll do some Q&A after this as well.
Yep. So actually, who wants to be a runner for me for the mic? Somebody? Yeah, thanks, Stuart. So Stuart's going to run around with this. If you've got a question, then throw your hand up, and Sam will we'll probably go for 5-10 minutes. We'll see how we go. So who's got some questions?
Just trying to live up to my name here.
G'day, Sam. Yeah, you mentioned praying for friends, and I suppose I find it a bit difficult, maybe overthinking it and thinking, gee, it's just tough to face when it doesn't go right. Yeah, and that's just a bit of a barrier sometimes for me. Just gets a bit down after down sometimes. You got any advice there, or?
So you've already prayed and the prayers don't seem to get answered?
Yeah, and maybe even just a fear of checking up with them to just hear more bad news sometimes.
Right. Well, I think, one, our friends, often if they're not believers yet, if they're not Christians yet, one, they see it as an amazing gesture of love. They feel cared for, they feel very loved. And I think that's all we're looking for as a baseline. And I think it opens the avenues for conversations later when they might say, okay, tell me more about prayer. Why do you pray? What do you believe? So I think that's a great thing. I think it's our way of showing love, I think. So that's what we're looking for. So prayer is good in and of it on itself, whether it gets answered. But at the same time, I think the more Australia has become so de-Christianised, the more I think God actually will show himself and answer prayers. Because I think in the Old Testament, where the people of God could choose a plethora of choices, like do I want to worship idols? Do I want to worship the gods of this nation? Or do I worship, the God of the Bible? God would actually say, you know what? I'm the God who answers prayers. That's how you know I'm the one true God. And so I think the more that Australia now has choices of whether to believe in God or not, I think the more God will step in and actually show that he is the true God by being the God who answers prayers. And then what I then tell my friends when the prayers do get answered, I go, wow, you know what? That was a miracle. And, I don't know what it is, but somehow in my life, these prayers are getting answered. And my friends are saying, that was a miracle. I go, yeah, it was a miracle. Like the visa being extended was a miracle. And the nurse said, yep, it was a miracle. And then what I love then sharing with them is in the Bible, there's a story of Jesus healing 10 lepers, where 10 people with this horrible skin disease, where they're cast out as social outcasts with leprosy. They call out to Jesus for healing. They don't believe in Jesus, but Jesus heals all of them. All 10 get healed. And then one of them comes back to believe. One comes back to love, worship, and know Jesus. So I say, you know what? Right now you have the healing, you have the miracle. The problem isn't that we wanted too much from Jesus, it's that we wanted too little. Jesus is happy to give us the blessing, but he actually wants us to come back and have more, and that is to know, love, and worship him. Right? So, I don't know. That just seems to be what's happening in my sphere right now. But I think for you, even if the prayers don't get answered, I think just the act of praying is good in and of itself.
Hi Sam, great to see you. Thanks for this morning. The world keeps telling us that the problem is outside of us. So we've got to legislate, we've got to have laws, we've got to have more money, education, etc. How do we explain the fact that the problem is the human heart? How do we talk to our neighbours, our colleagues, our rec friends and so on, about what we call sin?
Yeah.
How do we explain that in today's culture?
Yeah, and I think today's culture has it both, and we know we have to fix up the outside, and stuff on the outside does need to be fixed up, let's face it. And Australia is Australia, one of the best countries to live in, because we do have amazing schools and healthcare and government, like a democratic system that works, which other countries just can't even get going. So the outside problems are there, and the fact that Australia is amazing is because we have done so much to fix up the outside. The dominant story right now is not so much that the problem is on the inside, but that the inside is amazing. So the dominant story right now is, you know what, on the day I was born, I was amazing. I was pure, I was authentic, I was real. And then everything on the outside messed me up. My parents, the teachers, religion, the church, the government, they messed me up. So my job in life, my mission is to be brave, be true to who I am, not listen to anyone else, but just do whatever makes me happy. And it's an amazing story. And we all benefit from it. So as much as we rubbish it, we all live this story. The fact that we marry who we want to marry, not who mum and dad tell us to marry, means we're doing that story. The fact that we choose our job and not what mum and dad wanted us to do. The fact that we live in the city we want to live in means we're living that story. I get to choose what I want to do whatever it takes to make me happy. So it's a great story. It gives us independence, freedom, choice. The problem then is it assumes that I am pure on the inside, that I'm not at least a little bit selfish, a little bit naive, maybe even bad motives, broken motives, bad motives. And the proof then right now, and it's not just the Christians, the non-Christians are getting as well. There's this book by Will Storr, UK journalist, and it's called Selfie, How the West Became So Self-Obsessed. Will Storr, Selfie. And he puts the question out there. Right now, if you could be born anywhere, anytime, it'll be here. Like in the 21st century Western world, because we live longer, we've got clean water, we've got free Wi-Fi at McDonald's, right? This is as good as it ever gets. We have not had a major world war in decades. We live in peace. This is when you would want to be born, right here, right now. And yet somehow anxiety, depression and stress are sky high, disproportionately here compared to the rest of the world and other times, other places. So what has gone on? And he says, this is what's gone on. We've told ourselves this story, I'm okay, and you need to accept me for who I am. If you don't, you've got the problem. And it sounds great, but the problem is I'm not okay. And now I have to prove I'm okay to everyone. And it's created this culture of self-perfectionism, which is unsustainable, and we burn ourselves out. And the other problem is, even if other people say we're okay, we're actually the last ones to say to ourselves, you're okay. We're our own worst critics. And if other people forgive us, we're still the last ones to forgive ourselves. So that's the problem. Not just that I'm broken on the inside, but I'm actually my own worst critic. I'm my own worst God. I won't forgive myself. And that's where Jesus is such good news, because Jesus flips around and says, you know what? You're not okay. So you don't have to pretend to be perfect. It's okay not to be perfect. And suddenly there's something liberating about that. You are not perfect. Jesus is perfect, so I don't have to pretend to be perfect. You're not okay, and that's okay. But then God loves us too much to leave us the way we are, Every day is a day where he will make us into the person he wants us to be. So there's something very liberating about this message, and it is good news. And the more people that could hear it, the better. Yeah. Yes.
Thank you so much for giving us your time and insight, Sam. The question or the problem of suffering of innocence. Say babies born and live for a minute, or they're born and suffer for the rest of their lives or something like that. You know, yes, it can be soul destroying and sort of pointless. Babies being stillborn. Where's the where is God in that newborn's life when they're profoundly disabled and that sort of thing, and they're intellectually disabled, physically disabled. It's a very hard gig, you know, sort of thing. Where's the Lord in their life?
Yeah, that's right. So the question is, you know, innocent suffering. And so the problem is it's unfair, it seems overly harsh, it's disproportionate, it's way more like than we would expect. So why would a loving God, a loving, powerful God allow innocent suffering, unfair suffering, disproportionate, harsh, like suffering? So the thing is there are no easy answers. So we can think, okay, well, what are the answers? One answer is, you know what, there is no loving God. That's why these things happen, because there is no God behind the universe. This is just part of the random chatter that happens in an impersonal universe. You know, viruses come and go, dinosaurs come and go. This is just what happens if there's no God. It's just the random chatter that happens in an impersonal universe. Another choice is, you know, like in Eastern religions, we would say, you know, it's karma. You know, it is fair. You've done something wrong and now this is payback. But something in us goes, no, that's just horrible. Like, this is suffering because it's unfair. If it was fair, then it wouldn't be suffering. So no. Or, okay, maybe there's an impersonal God behind the universe. You know, this God does not care, like, could do something, but just says, you know, such is the will of this impersonal God. But at the same time, we think, no, hang on. If you're powerful enough to bring this universe from nothing, you can do something about this. So something in us says this problem exists because there is a loving, powerful God who could do something about it. You know, like, if there was no God, I'd have no problem about this, because this is just what happens in an impersonal universe. If this is karma, I'd have no problem. But no, we know it's not karma. This is why it's suffering. So this is suffering precisely because there is a loving God. That's how I know what is good and bad, right and wrong, fair and unfair, because there's a fair, loving God behind this universe. This problem only exists because there's a powerful God behind this universe who could and should do something about this. So then we're left with this thing, okay, if there is a loving, powerful God behind this universe, he must have whatever the reason is, and I don't know what it is, but it must be a loving, powerful reason for this to happen. And then the Bible goes one step further. It's so loving, it's so powerful that Jesus himself comes and suffers alongside of us. Jesus himself is powerful enough to be raised from the dead. And Jesus says, you know what, this is only one chapter. There's another chapter to come where all wrongs will be righted, where then we'll see the wisdom behind what was going on. Right now we just have one jigsaw puzzle piece, but one day we'll see the whole puzzle. We go, oh, that's why that piece went there. It's like, you know, every parent's hardest trip to the doctor is when you bring your baby to get vaccinated. And then the baby's so smiling, looking at you, trusting you. Oh, mum and dad, you know, where are we going today? The zoo? No, the doctors. And oh, okay, the doctors. And then they plunge that needle into the baby, and the baby looks at you horrified, like betrayed. And then as a parent, that's the worst moment. But what's interesting is it only lasts for a moment. The baby looks at you and you can see it doing this calculation thing. Yeah, hang on, up until now, I've had every reason to trust you. Maybe I should just keep on trusting you for this, because there must be a reason for this. I don't know what it is, but you've probably got a reason behind it. But I'll end with one more thing. I was just listening on a podcast, and it was this Asian lady saying why she became a Christian. She said because in her religion, she had worshipped Buddha, and the statues of Buddha are these very plump, well-fed, very comfortable God. And that's what we aspire to become, like Buddha, very plump, comfortable, well-fed. And then Buddha's solution to evil would be, it's an illusion. Get over it. There is no such thing as suffering. It's in your mind. Get over it. Detach yourself and remove yourself. But then the Christian image is the opposite. It's Jesus hanging on a cross in agony. So Jesus' solution is, you know what? I'm going to come to you. Rather than detach myself, I'm actually going to come into your world and suffer alongside with you. So he would be the innocent that suffers as well. Disproportionately, like these babies have to suffer, he suffers alongside with them. And we know because he didn't stay dead but rose from the dead, somehow there's a chapter still to come where all of this will be righted and fixed up.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, good morning. I just want to state on that God even gave the devil freedom of choice. And he hasn't dampened all his hatred, what he does, but what the devil does is point to God and say he did it. I just want to say that be as wise as gentle as a dove and wise as a serpent. Jesus even quotes it. We have to have power in understanding what the devil does to us and how he works in our mind. And we have to come close to Christ and God to have the solutions. I'm sorry, I don't mean, this is my personal belief. So, and this is random molecules organised too precisely. We have a maker. It's third party. You're an awesome talker, and I appreciate it. And I just ask that we come closer to Jesus to always understand, so we can, because the devil hides a lot of things, and if we don't understand what he does, we get trapped. Yeah. So that's my constant thing. Sorry to hassle. Thank you.
Thank you.
One or two more.
This might seem, thanks for the information, Sam. Everything you said here tonight, this afternoon, was really good. But this is an off-the-point question. You talk about serving others and the power of love. A dog, for instance, gives unconditional love, serves us willingly. I recently asked a study, do our pets go to heaven? What do you think?
Well, I could say the short answer is yes. I really do believe. So maybe in the history of the Christian church, we've so spiritualized Christianity, we thought it's only about the soul. It's only about spiritual blessings. But the more and more I read the Bible, it's the physical world matters. That's why Jesus became one of us. Like the physical world matters. And when he rose from the dead, he stayed as a physical body. And then one day in our resurrection in the future kingdom, we will have bodies as well. And it'll be a physical kingdom. So I think, there will be a physical world. So I think the short answer is yes.
Yeah, I've got a question for you, Sam. I've got the mic.
Sure.
I've been a Christian since 93. Wear a big cross on my back, proud of God, run a church on Sunday, do all the right things, beautiful wife, kids. But a lot of times I'm embarrassed of God and I don't know how to deal with it. That's my question. How do you do it?
Yeah, and I think that's very understandable because let me put it this way. I was once on a bus in East Africa, and the man next to me was wearing Muslim gear, and he said to me, "Are you a Christian?" And I think I was only like 20, 21 at the time, and I thought, "Oh my gosh, I got to stand up for Jesus. He died for me. I need to die for him." And I said, "Yes, I am a Christian." And then for the 16-hour bus trip, he deliberately made my life miserable. Like he chain smoked and kept blowing the smoke into my face for 16 hours. And I tell my missionary friends that, and they said, you know what? When he said, "Are you a Christian?" you should have answered, "What do you mean by Christian?" Because in his mind, he had a particular idea of what a Christian was. Maybe I was an American oppressor from the CIA that had, violated their sovereign rights in Africa. And so he had all the wrong ideas of what a Christian was. I needed to redefine it. So, okay, if that's what you mean by Christian, that's not what I am. And this is what I am. I'm someone who loves, worships, follows Jesus. I belong to Team Jesus. I'm loyal to Jesus. And I think right now in Australia, maybe the church, the word Christian, the cross, might bring up a lot of negative, wrong ideas. That's why at the start I said, forget about the Jesus we think we know, grew up with, because so many people have been hurt, maybe by the church, maybe they had religion shoved down their throats in a Christian school, dry, boring chapel services. They had religious parents who were hypocrites. So when we say we're Christian, that's what they're thinking as well. So in that sense, yes, it is hard to come out as a Christian because they're going to have all the wrong ideas. So I think it's okay then to feel embarrassed, awkward, because right now the world has this wrong idea of who we are. So I think we just need to redefine terms, just slowly, explain to people who we are. And the way I explain it is this. Jesus says, whoever disowns me, I will disown. But I think what he's trying to say is, but whoever stands up for me, I will stand up for him. What Jesus is saying, he's actually flipping around and saying, hey, I proudly own you. Like before God the Father, I say, hey, this one's one of mine. He's a child of God. And that means we can then be proud to own Jesus where we are because he proudly owns us. So it's that double dynamic.
Thank you.
Maybe just one more, Stuart.
Thanks. I've enjoyed listening to what you've said. One thing that you said earlier in your talk was that God doesn't answer every prayer. And later on, you said God is there to answer prayer. Now, I've always thought that God answers your prayer, every prayer, and it says in the good book, no child shall ask the father for bread and be given a stone. But I think the rationale that I've been given is that God will answer your prayer, but not at the time you want, nor in the way that you hope for. Mm-hmm. So I'm just wanting your comments on that.
Yeah.
Can I just say one thing else? I've had some tragedy or tragedies in my life, and it's because of my belief, my faith, that I've been able to surmount, to overcome these. But I consider that an answer in itself to prayer.
Yeah, that's right. So when we say God answers prayer, often it's not the answer we're hoping for. God might be saying no, yes, later, that sort of thing. But maybe the bigger question is when we pray, we're actually believing not just that there's a loving, powerful, personal God who loves prayer, who answers prayer, but he's actually an interventionist God. He's a God who steps in and intervenes. And so we actually are at that stage believing in an interventionist God of miracles who might do something a little bit out of the ordinary. Maybe give me the parking spot that I really, really need in front of the shops. And we all, in our darkest moments, catch ourselves praying for a parking spot, right? And so that then what do we do with our interventionist God? On the one hand, we can say, you know what, every day is a miracle. The fact that the sun rises every day, that's a miracle that we take for granted. The fact that my heart beats, that my lungs work, that's a miracle. But on the other hand, I think, God asks us to pray, meaning he does want to intervene and do something a little bit out of the ordinary every now and then. But on the other hand, so I'm going to have a lot of hands that go back and forth here, in the Bible itself, miracles don't happen as much as we think they do. They happen in clusters around the time of Moses, Elijah, a time of Jesus. I was just reading, it was in Judges and Samuel where it says, for a long time God was silent and actually wasn't showing himself explicitly. So there are times where God leaves us in wilderness moments where he seems to us to be quite silent. And at the same time, the Bible says the greatest miracle is what he's done for us. You know, he's put his spirit in us, adopted us, and every day making us more and more like Jesus. So I think we have to have this nuanced understanding of how God works, how he intervenes, and how he answers prayer.
Okay, thank you, Sam. You're going to put the next one.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Thanks. Thanks, Chuck.
Alrighty. So look, Sam's going to be hanging around for a little bit afterwards. If you want to ask some more questions, I'm sure there was lots of hands still wanting to go on, but time is ticking, so we will move along. After this, as we do for every time we do these events, we're running a course called Jesus for the Curious. Okay. Now Stuart Starr, I'm going to ask him to come up. Stuart is the lead pastor here at this church. Stuart's going to be running the course for us. So firstly, Stuart, on behalf of all of us, thank you and your congregation for letting us use this magnificent building.
Yeah, it was no trouble at all. Delighted to have you here, gents. Really great. And great to have you here today, Sam.
Cool. So if you can just explain, what's this course you're running, Jesus for the Curious?
Yep. When I was a kid, I used to love watermelon. Don't know if that's still the case for any of you, but I love it. Magical fruit. Okay. And so what my mum said to me was, if I ate watermelon seeds, she didn't want me to. If I ate watermelon seeds, watermelons would grow out my ears. Now, as a boy, I actually thought this was actually a very good outcome. And so I figured I love watermelon. It'd be great for it to be really handy. And if it was out my ears, it'd be great. So I studiously ate every single watermelon seed that I could find and was sadly disappointed when no watermelon started growing out my ears. Now, what I'd say to you guys is, as Sam said to us today, a bunch of you will have had some ideas about the Bible that might have been formed when you were very young, school, when you're a kid or whatever. And what we try and do in Jesus for the Curious is invite you to revisit information that may be out of date and to come and read the Bible as a man with all of your life experience and all the questions that you've got, and have a look at Jesus and check him out for yourself legitimately. Because there's stuff that we believed as kids that's actually not true. And I want to encourage you, not that you'll definitely find all the answers you're looking for, but you can find a Jesus you might not have expected to find. So Jesus for the Curious is 4 weeks. We meet here on a Tuesday night, 7:30, and we open the Bible together and we look at who Jesus is, as Sam's been presenting him to us, and I ask you to tell me what you see. Now, I'll answer some of your questions, but I want you to read it. And as we read it, I promise you, you'll find a Jesus you didn't expect. And you may find a Jesus who you want to love, worship, and follow, as Sam's been encouraging us today. So it's a place for questions. It's a place where you won't feel out of place. It's a place where you can sit there entirely on your own. You don't even have to ask questions. You'll never be asked to pray, but you will feel welcome, and your questions and your doubts and your skepticism are invited in to meet the real Jesus with your adult brain. And I love doing it.
Okay, and the cost?
Yep, donuts.
Donuts?
It's going to cost you nothing at all. We'd love to have you come along. There's no cost apart from 4 nights, and I reckon you can give that up to find something that changes the funeral that Sam's going to on a Monday. And
at the end, they have to sign up to attend church for the next 6 years?
That's absolutely right, mate, yeah.
No, that's not right.
And we scan your credit card as you come in as well. Guys, I want to encourage you. I don't want anything from you, but I do want to hold out the offer of what Sam's been saying. It's found in Jesus, and it takes you looking at him again, and it's worth it. And if it takes 4 nights to do that, I know you'd spend more time researching the next helmet for your motorbike. So why don't we do that? And you're invited, and it's good, Chuck. You've done it with me, haven't you?
Yep, absolutely. It's great. Good. Thanks, Stuart. Okay, so on the just up the back there where Roy is, wave your hand there, young Roy. Well, that's actually old Roy, but that'll do. Okay, so around the corner there, we've got some books that are available for you, and there's a sign-up sheet for Jesus for the Curious. So if you're interested in doing that course, then put your name down there and we'll get in contact with you in the next little while. So on that table, we've got some resources there. So as Sam said at the beginning, we want to sort of whet your appetite, and you may have some questions, you might be curious. So let me encourage you, if this morning has sparked something in you, you go, you know what, maybe I will check this out. You can certainly plug into Jesus for the Curious, but as well, we've got some resources up there. So, and these are free. No need to pay for these. There is a bucket there for donations. If you want to donate to help pay for these, great. If not, that's cool. Just take a book. Take a book for a friend if you like. So we've got some of these up here. This is the New Testament. Okay, so the part of what we're going to be looking at with the Jesus for the Curious, looking at Jesus' life. Okay, so take some of these. This is actually the part of the Bible where Jesus came on the scene. So take one of those and have a look. We've got a book that's written mainly for sort of a younger sort of audience called A Sneaking Suspicion. Okay, it's got some really good chapters in there about trusting the Bible, about other religions, all sorts of things. So mainly written once again for a younger audience, but have a look at that. It's really good. What's Seb doing up here? That's all right. This is unscripted. Okay, there's another one. He's up to no good. That's Seb. So there's another one up there called More Than a Carpenter. This is written by a guy called Josh McDowell. He set out to disprove Christianity, and he ended up writing a book to the opposite because he found so much evidence. Great little book. The thing I like about this book is, besides the fact that it's small, is you can read chapters. You don't have to read it front to back. If you've just got a particular question about the Bible or about certain things, you can look up that chapter and just read that chapter individually. There's some incredible evidence in there. Like Stuart said, there's some things that we believed growing up and some things we hear who's ever heard, the Bible was written 2,000 years ago, it's been translated so many times and you can't trust it. Well, let me challenge you, if you think that's true, to pick up the chapter on this about can I trust the biblical records, and you'll be astounded at the evidence that's there to be had. Another one is a book written by a guy called Richard Beeson, who's a guy from Sydney, about depression. It's about his wife's depression. It's a really, really good book. If you, I'm starting to get upset here because I struggle with depression. Come and slap me, Seb. So this really helped me understand my own depression. So if you have mates that have depression, then get hold of this book. It'll help you understand it as well. And he's also a musician. And there's a disc in the front which has got some of his music on there, which is really good music as well. Okay, I got through that one all right. One last little book. It's called Two Roads. So it's just a really quick snapshot. We're on two roads. We're on these roads, our own way or God's way. So this is just a really quick snapshot on that. So let me encourage you to go and take those resources. If you get up there and it's the last one, then let us know and we'll get you one. We'll get you something. We don't want to run out of books. There should be plenty up there. And finally, if you would like to talk to somebody about anything you've heard today, then obviously Jesus for the Curious is a great time to come. But there's also round at the table. Jeff and a few of the other guys from our team are going to be round there with the other Men and Machines shirts on. If you just want to have a chat to them about anything, then please grab them. Some of you may know, you see there's a lot of bikes out there today. Some of you may or may not have heard that we're going for a ride after this. We're leaving at about 9:30 and we're heading down to Berrima to the Smoking Cafe, which is a great little cafe that's got a lot to do with bikes. So who's joining us for the ride? Okay, we've got quite a few here. So if you rode today and you didn't know about that and you want to join us, then great. If you've got a bike parked at home and it's reasonably close and you can get back here by 9:30, then please join us. Two more things. One, just want to wish Peter Watson a happy 75th birthday for today. So happy birthday, Pete. I'm sure at 75 he'd rather be at home in bed, but thanks for coming. No, he wouldn't. That's good. Okay, there are some more egg and bacon rolls. So please go out and help yourself. I think there's some more drinks as well.
Your website, menandmachines.org.
Yep.
That website takes you to, it comes up with
Yeah, so our website, just to fill you in, got hacked. So it's, our menandmachines.org website got hacked, and there's all sorts of rubbish going on there. Google actually shut us down before we even realised, because it was linked to some very, very serious viruses. So we've created a new one as a temporary, and instead of a .org, it's .com.au. So thank you for that, if you want to check out our website. So, okay, thank you again for coming, guys. And Seb's...
Just before you go, as Chuck said, this is a little bit unscripted, so he doesn't know what I'm doing up here. But I just wanted to quickly say thank you again to all of you guys coming. Thank you to Sam. And I just wanted to quickly say I consider it to be an honor actually standing alongside Chuck up here this morning. Probably most of you won't know that Chuck has been called to serve in other ministries moving forward. So this is maybe, hopefully not, his last gig with Men and Machine. So I just wanted to quickly recognize that. I attended church some years ago and walked out in the foyer and I saw a flyer hanging up on the pinboard. That was about 8 years ago with some crazy cars and things. And I said, hey, that looks interesting. I want in. And so I got to know Chuck about 8 years ago and served alongside him doing this ministry. And without this man, we probably wouldn't be sitting here right now this morning, to be honest. So why don't you guys thank him quickly for that? So I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, I think around 12 years ago or so, God has called you to a men's ministry, which started off with just a few blokes getting together in a shed with their big boy toys, some bikes and cars, and there wasn't very many. And they just got together and they talked Jesus. And from there, it grew into quite a beast, to be honest. So we've been able to hold events that had literally thousands of people from the local area come and attend, with crazy things like monster trucks and jet cars that shoot great big flames. God has allowed us to minister to families in need, with children that are sick, and we've been able to hold Breakys that's just like we have this morning, and just spread the good news and the gospel. And so there's obviously a team of guys that work behind that, but the driving force behind that team is this young man up here. And it's been an honor, it's been a pleasure, and it's been awesome to do this alongside with him. So we have a 24-carat piece of plastic on a piece of wood to recognize that. So I just wanted to leave Chuck and leave you guys with let God have the last word. So I just wanted to read a couple of verses and just to thank him and do that. So the book of Philippians in chapter 1, it says, I thank my God every time I remember you. In all my prayers for all of you, I always pray with joy because of your partnership in the gospel from the first day until now. Being confident of this, that he who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion until the day of Christ Jesus. And Hebrews 13, now may the God of peace who through the blood of the eternal covenant brought back from the dead our Lord Jesus, that great shepherd of the sheep, equip you with everything good for doing his will, and may he work in us with what is pleasing to him, through Jesus Christ, to whom glory be forever and ever. Amen. So help me to thank Chuck, and we pray for you, and we pray for God, what he has in store for you moving forward.
Thanks, mate.